Dear Evan Hansen debuted on Broadway in 2016, and it's a coming-of-age story that focuses on mental illness and suicide. The musical features songs that are touching, inspiring, and a message the world desperately needs to hear. On the flip side, Dear Evan Hansen's stage play is one of deception, lies, lack of consequences, and ultimately manipulation. And that's my biggest problem with the entire show. For those of you who don't know the story of Dear Evan Hansen, here's a spoiler-filled rundown. Dear Evan Hansen is about the high schooler named, you probably guessed, Evan Hansen, a teenager who suffers from social anxiety, and as recommended by his therapist, he writes letters addressed to himself to help remain positive.
Dear Evan Hansen, today is going to be an amazing day, and here's why.
Evan is alone, with no friends, well, except for his family friend, Jared. Anyways, we also have a story following Connor and his family, the Murphys. The wealthy family is falling apart at the seams, and Connor has his own demons he's trying to fight. Eventually, Connor signs Evan's cast in giant bold letters, the only person to do so. And after a misunderstanding, Connor finds one of Evan's letters and takes it because he thought he was using it to make fun of him. The letter mentions Connor's sister because Evan had a crush on her. Later on, Connor commits suicide with this letter still in his pocket. And now everyone believes that Connor wrote a suicide note to Evan, leading to the Murphys' belief that the two of them were close friends. And just an FYI, I am not comfortable with the number of times I've said suicide already in this video, so we're just going to refer to it as the S word from here on out. Evan is now caught in a lie, but now he has a family that cares for him. People at school start to pay attention to him because, as far as they know, he just lost his best friend. Honestly, Evan is living out his dream, something he would have never gotten to do if Connor were still alive. That is the basis of Dear Evan Hansen. The socially awkward Evan can't tell the Murphys the truth, so he has to pretend to be Connor's friend, making up stories, creating fake emails, even starting the Connor Murphy Project. The lie extends past the musical's plot and kind of seeps into the project itself. "You will be found" is the tagline on the poster, merchandise, the thumbnail of this video, and even the upcoming movie. However, that's not what actually happens. Connor's death spurred the show's events, but Connor himself is not a character of significance. We see Connor throughout the show, but he's a caricature, a creation of what Evan claims him to be. We later learn that Evan broke his arm because we assume it was an attempted S word. Like Connor though, no one found Evan. The musical is also a comedy. Did I forget to mention that earlier? Yeah, the show has quite an upbeat tone considering the subject matter, and some of the songs are pretty cheery. Things are less heavy and kind of lend more to the cringy side as opposed to the dramatic side, so think less Les Mis and more Scott's Tots. Evan, as a character, makes things even more problematic. The show makes it known that he suffers from mental illness, but doesn't care enough to tell us what he's actually suffering from. Instead, we just let that be the excuse for his behavior. Evan uses Connor's death to get close to the Murphys, and eventually starts dating Connor's sister, a girl Evan had a crush on since the beginning of the show. So, a brief recap. There's a misunderstanding that causes the Murphys to have an emotional attachment to Evan, but instead of telling them the truth, Evan continued to embellish the lie, leading to him having the family he's never had and the girl of his dreams, all built on the death of a teenage boy. The craziest part of all of this is that the songs don't ever mention the severity of the situation. If you never saw the musical and only listened to the cast album, you'd miss context of those songs, which in my opinion makes things far worse. You'd think this was a musical about a teenager who committed the S word, and his friends and loved ones honored his memory by making sure to be there for those who need help. But again, that's just not the case. And Evan is taking advantage of this family. Connor's mother, for example, has longed for a connection with her son, and through Evan, she feels like she's finally getting that, and it's heartbreaking. The songs make no mention of Connor, and so when Ben Platt is performing Waving Through a Window on Seth Meyers, audiences don't have to think about what a scumbag Evan is. The show ends with Evan eventually fessing up to the lie, and we get a very touching song from his mother, but then we get a time skip. never showcasing the consequences of the lie he's been living. Views Evan's mental illness as an excuse, when in reality, not having him deal with the problem head-on is a disservice to the musical and its audience. Throughout the show, Evan's mother is trying to be there for her son. She's by no means a perfect parent, but she's clearly doing her best to support Evan. Even his family friend, Jared, is also there for him, and he has a weird way of showing it, sure, but who's been by Evan's side this entire time? The show never really highlights the positives in Evan's life, and instead continues to shove this insane falsehood into our faces. A more tasteful ending might have been having Evan realize that the family and friends he's had long for were the ones who were with him since the beginning. But we just kind of skim over that because we could get to more awkward moments like Connor's father teaching Evan how to break in a baseball glove.
And after 162 games and a couple of hard-fought series, it could all come down to a single catch. Do you really want your whole season riding on a mitt with stiff leather?
Songs like Disappear and If I Could Tell Her are fantastic, but they're consistently at war with the actual narrative of the musical. The show wants to be perceived as a musical about the forgotten, a musical shedding light on the issues teenagers go through daily and reminding everyone that they aren't alone no matter how dark things get. However, the actual plot is about Evan taking advantage of a grieving family to make himself feel better. So in the end, everything the show is trying to say rings hollow. As someone who can relate to both Evan and Connor, it's uncomfortable to see this story play out. Though Dear Evan Hansen isn't without its bright spots. The songs are genuinely touching, and on their own, it's fantastic. But, unfortunately, musical numbers are not separate from the musicals they came from. Stage musicals are one of my favorite forms of entertainment. The idea of transforming a single stage into a street corner, a school, or a battlefield makes things feel larger than life. Those same musicals are often highly over the top and rooted in fantasy, like Into the Woods, Wicked, and The Lion King. Dear Evan Hansen's rocky foundation is not one rooted in fantasy. You can't make light of this situation, and that makes it incredibly difficult to enjoy. The characters feel real, the songs are amazing, but we're essentially dancing on Connor's grave whenever we're jamming out to that insanely catchy song about plotting to manipulate the Murphys. The very foundation of the story is problematic on so many levels, and I wish I could understand what the writers wanted to say with this show. The ideas behind the music are amazing, but the main character, Evan, and the story drag things down that is just an insanely uncomfortable experience. Dear Evan Hansen, you are a musical at war with yourself, and that makes you one of the most uncomfortable theater shows I've ever seen. You're preaching a message that you yourself failed to support, and it's downright infuriating. But maybe that's the point. At the heart of the story, it's one of pain, sorrow, and grief. The bright spots are few and far between, but if we look around, we will find them, sure. The show makes me sick, and Evan is a character I despise to my very core, but if a song like Waving Through a Window or You Will Be Found touches someone's heart, then that makes this entire show worth it. So, Evan, you are far from perfect, but your story did leave an impact and struck up a meaningful conversation about mental health. So, thanks, I guess. For what it's worth, this is not the worst show I've ever seen, even though it is probably the most infuriating show I've seen. So, props for not being the worst ever, I guess. Sincerely, me. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and check out my video on Hamilton. It's another musical that took the world by storm a few years ago. And if there's any other shows or movie adaptations you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comment section down below. Alright, thank you guys again so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. Take care.